Hi, Gabby. How's it going?
Good, how are you?
I'm doing well. Thank you so much for taking the time to talk with us today. So, my name's Dorian, and it's really nice to finally meet you. It's always cool, doing the interview or doing like the research and going back and forth and looking at all this stuff and finally getting to meet you in person after reading about your awesome business. So, first things first, can you just like give us a quick introduction of yourself and GaBBY Bows so that people out there listening who might not be super familiar can get a chance to meet with you?
Hi everyone. I am Gabby Goodwin. I am the 18-year-old CEO of Confidence and the inventor of GaBBY Bows, the first and patented double face, double snap barrette that I invented when I was 7 years old. Really just came out of a need of me constantly losing my barrettes. My mom would spend 15, 20 minutes doing my hair every morning. She would drop me off at school looking really nice and then pick me up to find that half of my bows were gone and that my hair was a complete mess. And so she was frustrated that I was losing barrettes and she was also wasting money. And I was also frustrated because I was getting in trouble for something I really wasn't doing. So it really just created a sense of need for us, and basically just pushed us into at least me, pushed me into wanting to create a invention, a barrette, not necessarily a business. I didn't necessarily know about entrepreneurship, but I did know that I wanted to stop getting in trouble and that also I wanted to inspire girls, inspire other people, especially girls who look like me. And so I saw it as a way to do that. So basically took 2 years to create a barrette, and launched it in February of 2014. So we've been in business for 11 years now, but super grateful for each and every journey, each and every year of this journey. And I'm really excited to talk about it as well.
That's awesome. Wow. You just gave us like the whole spiel there. You kind of killed my first question. But well, my first question was going to be like the quick origin of GaBBY Bows. So is there any like specific story experience? You just did a great job of detailing the whole thing, but was there any like key, part during your childhood that made you want to start this business?
I think just really seeing the frustration. I think one of the main things is my mom actually went on social media to rant about me losing my barrettes. And after her and many other moms were just talking about how terrible these barrettes were, our pastor actually jumped into the conversation and said, "Sounds like a market you need to break into." So I saw my mom kind of pondering about that. It basically was just like, why don't we create our own barrette? And so that was really one of the main things to really push us forward into creating GaBBY Bows. And I think just sitting down at the kitchen table, looking at barrettes that I was losing, and just looking to see how we can make them better, and thinking about the ways that I've seen kind of complaints in my own community, in my own environment. The double-faced idea really comes from my grandma, who's a big fashionista. And every time I would wear barrettes that would just have one face on it, and you would just turn around and see that strip, she would be really frustrated, and she thought it like ruined my entire outfit. So we wanted to really make sure she was pleased with the barrette that was coming out, but just really looking at my own personal experiences and hearing about other people and their frustrations really pushed me and helped us to create the barrette.
Right. That's awesome. That's such a funny, like, cute backstory with the grandma and stuff. I didn't read about that. That's so funny. So growing up in your household, right, was business and financial literacy something that was talked about a lot, or did this whole business idea sort of just start about, when your grandma was like talking about the berets and all that?
Yeah, not really. Me and my parents are first and second generation entrepreneurs. So when we got into business, not just with GaBBY Bows, my dad is also a stand-up comedian. So he has his own business as well. But we basically kind of just built those two family businesses from the ground up. So we're basically just really learning together. I think that's one of the main things. Like obviously my parents have had financial literacy, have had, like learned about financial literacy and things like that, and continuing to pass it on to me. But in terms of like business and business acumen and things of that nature, it really just took ourselves to really learn about it, and also go to different groups and masterminds and peers and mentors and things like that to really learn about entrepreneurship. So I wouldn't really say that it was, but it definitely is now. I will say that.
And so you started this, if I recall correctly, you said 7 years old you started this. That's
Yes.
super impressive, first of all. But what were some of the first products that you made to start off the business? Because now you've branched out into so many different things, but what were the first few products that you pushed out to the company?
Yeah, so we really started with just the Gabby Bow itself for a long time. The first thing we came out with was our first design, which was the little lady Gabby Bow, which is a ladybug. So we really started with that. Those three colors were pink, like light pink, red, and light purple. So we really just kind of started with that, branched out into another design, which is the sweet pea flower, and then added five more colors. And then after that, we were able to release the Daddy's Girl. And that took that, I mean, that whole span is probably like 7 years. Like we just had the barrettes for most of the time. And then we started to obviously realize that our customers were having other issues and other needs that we could also branch out into. But we really just started with the Gabby Bow, and that was really the main thing for pretty much half of the business as well.
That's really cool. And so tell me about that early experience, about you starting off, in such it's like a complex manufacturing business. What were the production processes like of those first few bows?
Yeah, it was definitely really cool for me to see. Once we were able to get in contact with engineers and manufacturers, it was just really a back and forth game of getting prototypes, testing them out. With the little lady, it definitely took a lot of different testing and things like that. At first, we wanted to like put paints on the ladybug spots or paint like black paint on it. And I went to school with them on, and the paint was like completely on afterwards. So we were like, no, that's not gonna work. So it really just took sending them drawings, sending them things that they needed to manufacture, getting back those prototypes, me testing them at school, giving them to some of my friends or family friends so they can test them at wherever they were as well. And that really just started an entire thing of just back and forth for about 2 years, because that was the process of from 5 years old to seven of just creating that first barrette and that first design. So that was really the process. And then looking at different colors, testing different colors, seeing what was the best one for the first design. And then also, as we went forward, talking to our customers and seeing what colors they wanted, and continuing to grow upon that as well.
That's so cool. And also like kind of walk us through, meeting with manufacturers and like meeting with like these other like sort of collaborators for the first time. Was it like sort of scary because you were so young? Yeah.
Yeah, so we actually have a kind of an unorthodox manufacturing engineering story. As I mentioned, we're first and second generation entrepreneurs. So when I came up with this idea, we initially tried to honestly sell the idea because we didn't know what business was or how to run a business. So we actually went through a kind of big hair accessory brand, and obviously that didn't work out. But they saw, or my mom saw, how adamant I was about creating some sort of barrette. So they were like, could you connect us to like some manufacturers, some engineers? So we connected with them through that company. And that's really how we were able to get in contact with those people. Are they manufactured in China currently, so we still haven't been able to go out and be able to actually see the process, but we've obviously had a lot of different conversations with engineers who are here, actually in the state above us in North Carolina. But it was really cool to be able to go to their office, look at the design plans, being able to meet them in person. It was kind of scary at first, I will say that, but they were super nice, super welcoming, and were able to really push us and help us through that process. So being able to meet the right manufacturers and engineers is something that's super huge for your success moving forward.
Right, that totally makes sense. And so, what were some of those resources that you used in the beginning when it came to the world of production? Are there any sort of like methods of study or mentors that you want to shout out, especially for like people who are trying to break into the business right now?
Honestly, I mean, the biggest piece of advice I would say is just continue to reach out and network. I mean, obviously, I couldn't do a lot because I was in school and I was like 6 years old, so I didn't really have an email account. But my mom did a lot of kind of networking, constantly reaching out to people, even if they did not respond the first time, like constantly reaching out to people who we can partner with, to engineers, to manufacturers, to attorneys, because that's a big thing as well. Especially if you're making something new, you definitely want to be able to, get into that patent situation and realm as well. That's something I would say, but just continue to reach out, network. We were able to meet a good amount of people who, because obviously when you go around with a product that a 6 year old is trying to create, it may seem a little risky. So a lot of people were not really responsive at first, but just continue to go out there, put yourself out there, even if you may not see people responding in the way that you would like them to. I think that's one of the main things that I would say. And just, yeah, continue to have belief in your product, because you know that that it solves a problem, you know that it solves a need, and so convey that to other people as well.
And just going back, since you and your mom were sort of starting this business at the same time, were there like any like, I don't know, books or like classes or like even like YouTube videos, especially like what was your main method of study?
Trial and error really helped us. I mean, obviously going back and forth with different people. When we were able to actually get the business off of the ground and start, we were able to get connected with a major mentor of ours, which is Traffic Sales and Profit, their group, run by Mr. Lamar and Miss Ronnie Tyler. Those two were really our first mentors in terms of being able to really grow our brand and scale it. And they're still, our mentors today. We're still in their mastermind after like 8-9 years, but it's people like that, their conferences that they host, or they hosted 2 conferences a year. It's going into one, but those conferences, being able to even like reach out to local business organizations like our Small Business Association here in South Carolina, here in Columbia, or even the Chamber of Commerce here, were some really good resources for us to kind of learn, to gain networks. 1 million cups, like those Toastmasters, like those small kind of groups where you can find other entrepreneurs, but then not just other people that are just like you, but then also banks, people from business organizations, or people who are really just there to help you. So I would really just say to maximize your local opportunities to be able to really be able to expand as well.
Right, that makes a ton of sense. And going back to what you said earlier about this sort of trial and error, what were some of the biggest challenges, especially like what was the first, I guess, big challenge that you faced when launching your products?
I think for me personally was a lack of confidence in myself, which may seem like kind of crazy now. Like, she can talk to anybody. I can now, but it came with a lot of practice, a lot of pushing, and that was one thing that was a big thing for me to kind of overcome. When we first started, obviously when you're in business and you're like at vendor shows every week, like you have to talk to people to be able to get that business. And for me, it was very nerve-wracking to like speak up. I was very shy, very timid, quiet, didn't want to talk to people that I didn't know. And so that was definitely not a mix or a great mix, I would say, when starting that brand. And so I really just had to learn how to grow in my voice, grow in my confidence, push myself not only at vendor shows but also at speaking engagements. So I think that was one of the main problems or the main problem, honestly, that I had going into creating this brand and starting it, was really just using my voice and the struggles that I had with that. But just continuing to push myself and give myself more practice, give myself more exposure, and to become the person that I am today.
And just to go back to something you said earlier with your parents and going into like the retirement funds, I mean, like that's, like that's a big commitment. They really must have had a lot of trust in you as a 7-year-old. Can you talk a little bit about that? Like, what were those conversations? And I guess, how do you look back on that, knowing that it worked out now?
Yeah, that was huge. I mean, at 7, I didn't know what really was going on. I mean, like I was like, oh, we got the money now. That's cool. But I think it really came from a fact that my parents, especially my mom, as a woman, wanted to make sure that I knew that I could achieve my dreams at any point in my life. And so, even though this might have been a really big risk or something that we'd never done before, creating a product, creating a business, they really wanted to show me that I could achieve my dreams no matter how old I was, no matter how big they were. And that was something that has really carried forward and I've really appreciated throughout the years. It's just their willingness to continue to pour into not just me, but also my brother as well, and our dreams and our aspirations, and giving us the platforms to do so. And that means a lot of sacrifices. And I'm super grateful for all of the sacrifices. I've seen them firsthand. And I know that it's really important to them to make sure that their children know that they can, achieve anything, and that they have the power to do so. And so that was really the main thing behind that. It's just really showing me, showing my brother, showing the people around me that they had my back, that they have supported me and they will support me in whatever I do. And so those were really big keys that I took away from that and continue to appreciate today.
Right, that's awesome. That's awesome. It's just, and I've heard of your business actually before. I believe it was like a year or two ago. I was reading this article, and they were just talking about this whole wave of these new businesses starting up, sort of tailored towards underrepresented communities in the world. And there's the skin tone matching band-aids. And then I heard actually like Gabby's book, because I remember looking you up when I was told I'm going to do this interview, and I was like, I've heard this before, and I went back to the article, I'm like, oh, there it is. And it's so cool to really get this sort of full circle moment, because that's the first question that, I wanted to ask. It's the first thing I wrote down on my papers, and that's the number one thing I wanted to ask you today. So I'm really happy that, I finally got to do that.
Yes.
And so how did you go, sort of this idea to an actual product on the market? Especially like with all these products that you're currently making and potentially anything in the future, what were some of the first steps that you took as someone sort of just getting into the field? What was the absolute first thing that you did?
Social media, that was one of the main things. Getting there, being consistent. We've posted our first we made a YouTube video, or like a commercial that we posted on like YouTube and Facebook to really announce it in February 2014. I talk about it a lot because that was one that I was actually supposed to say most of the stuff in that commercial. I had a breakdown before, I cried and I was like, I can't do this. Even it was like a camera and 5 people in the room, but I was so nervous, going back to that confidence aspect. So you can look back at it now. I said 2 things. My mom took over all of my lines. I was holding on to my necklace, but with that I had to really put myself in a situation where I was like, if you want to be able to get your business off the ground, if you want to be able to have people know who you are, you have to be more consistent and more confident on social media. So going live pretty much every week, going to vendor shows, as I've said, and going live there saying, hey, we're here, come meet us if you're in the area. Having videos of me posted, or doing keynote speeches or doing workshops or things like that really helped us get off the ground. So that's what I would really say, is be on all the social media platforms you can, but also find the ones that are niche to your target audience, and find the ones that can give you the most success. So we're the most consistent on Facebook and Instagram, because that's where most of our target market is. And so it's being consistent, it's posting new content, using hashtags. Hashtags got us a lot of different opportunities, whether it be national TV, whether it be press, and even retail and things like that. So being able to do that and reaching out, being appreciative of your local press, can be able to get the attention of regional, national, and international press as well. We were able to go around to all of our TV stations, it was 6 o'clock in the morning before school, just talking about my beret or talking about an event that I was going to be speaking at, and then getting that recognition to be on TV shows like The Real or Good Morning America and things like that. So to really get it off the ground, I think that was the main thing for us, is showing up consistently on social media, showing up to vendor shows consistently, ones where our target market was at, Every Saturday I was probably somewhere different or somewhere new, but really just getting the word out of the beret in general, and that obviously was able to lead to more success in the future.
So we talked a little about your earlier like advertising campaigns, but what do they look like now? I know you mentioned Instagram and Facebook as being your sort of main grab points, but are there any other things that you sort of branched out into now that you're such a big business?
Yes. So social media, big email list is huge for us, that we've been able to build over these past 11 years. But that's one way that we're really able to communicate, getting into text message, SMS marketing, things like that. The chat box, like on the side of the website, that's pretty cool as well. Bringing on a virtual assistant on our team has been huge for us, in that communication aspect, because she's the one replying to different customers when it comes to the chat or when it comes to emails, things like that. So those are the main things when it comes to like communication, marketing. I think just obviously going along with different trends, creating our own kind of brand. That's something that's big. I mean, obviously we have our logo and we've been able to kind of branch off of those colors, create graphics that you see on the daily, things like that. Just posting consistently, honestly. And now, that we're getting there's a lot, happening with me as a person. College, just released obviously my or just recently released my book for pre-order, with HarperCollins, which is super exciting. So like posting about that consistently, making sure that we're able to get that momentum up. But yeah, I think it's just now. And now, honestly, it's more creating more personable content. So, because I will say, I was a little like, I feel like people just know me as Gabby Bows. Like, people don't really know me as Gabby. So I'll post on the Gabby Bows story, something like school related or like things like that, or repost something that my friend has done, to give a greater perspective, and definitely wanting to more branch out into more content that revolves around kind of me just as a person.
It's sort of a change of pace here, but you talked a lot about confidence growing up and how, you mentioned like that's one of the biggest, setbacks you had like in the beginning of your career. Can you talk about how you handled other failures, and setbacks within your business, especially earlier in your career?
Yeah, it was definitely hard. I will say that. I mean, rejection is not fun at all. And I definitely was able to learn that, earlier in my life, in my entrepreneurial career. And I think that's definitely been able to help me. And obviously, rejection at first was really hard for me to kind of grasp and to deal with. I remember like pitch competitions, I was like distraught over like not being able to place, and my parents having to calm me down and things like that. And it was after one like major rejection that I actually have, or created my own quote and kind of my own perspective, which is no is just an abbreviation for next opportunity. So it's after one no, two no's, 1,000 no's, like however many no's, rejections you experience or get. If you know that this is your purpose, if you know that this is your dream that you want to achieve, if you keep going towards that opportunity, you'll be able to get there. And there's so many instances, in these 11 years that I've been able to really learn that I can't give up after hearing rejection, but use that as motivation, and really be able to inspire not only others, but myself to continue to go forward with that dream, because it will happen eventually at some point. And so that's something that I constantly tell others, is just really making sure that you don't make, like, I was talking to a group of, well, this was like kindergartners to 12th graders yesterday, and I was like, sometimes if you hear no, especially from like your parents, do listen. Like, don't like don't like make sure like, oh, she said next opportunity, that means I don't have to. Don't, please listen for the most part. But I definitely do say that, experiencing rejection early is great because it builds up a resilience that can never be shaken. And I definitely, not a lot of things can like shake me now or, set me off track because of the fact that I've dealt with, smaller rejections or even really big rejections as well. And so that's something that I would encourage even parents to not shield your children from rejection. Obviously don't like break them, but if they don't win a soccer game, if they don't win a competition, that's fine because they're able to really learn about, okay, this is how I feel, how can I use that as motivation or feedback to be able to do better next time, what can I do to improve myself, and then you just really are able to grow a sense of resilience and a sense of encouragement for yourself that really can't be shaken. So I think that's really how I've been able to deal with rejection.
Right. That was great. That was business advice and parental advice all in the same question. That's great. And so, again, switching pace from sort of the negatives to the successes, what have been some of the biggest wins, in your opinion, in your business career thus far?
First say obviously the book, which is really cool. Right now, but
Yeah,
this
I
is
like
cool.
that.
Yes, first time I've ever written a book, so that's really cool. I mean, all the awards were great. Being able to meet a lot of young girls, I think, is something that's really, heartwarming to me. You never know what impact you may have, and so it's really cool to be able to like be somewhere and be noticed, or after you speak, people wanting to come up and take pictures with you or talk to you or things like that. It's really hard. It's really gratifying to me as a person. Like there's a lot of things. Sometimes my mind, but I mean, I like this question, but it's just like, so,
But
but I'm really grateful for every single thing. I think really just being able to, again, inspire people because that was my main goal in the first place.
no, I think that's definitely something that you're making clear. I mean, every time I've asked you something about things you're the most grateful for and some of your biggest successes, you always come back to like, you know, meeting like the young kids and like giving like this sort of inspiration and like I don't know, it's definitely like sort of a full circle from the way that you spin the story. It's definitely like a full circle sort of feeling from, not having like the correct boast when you were a kid and like now that you can provide this like other kids. I think that's like super sweet. Um,
Yeah.
so, what are some of the key lessons that you've learned about leadership and running a business? You're doing all this, these speakings to kids that are sometimes your age. You said that you gave a K through 12 speech just yesterday. And, like that's pretty much like some of those kids are in your age grade. So, how can you talk about, leadership in this way?
And I've been able to learn about leadership in so many different ways, in so many different instances, not just in entrepreneurship, but like in clubs, in my school, in my community. I think one of the main things that I learned from each and every one of them is learning that people communicate in different ways, and that even though you may say something, that or you may mean something else, somebody may interpret it completely different, and that you have to really cater yourself and your emotions and your communication, not necessarily your emotions, because obviously if they're real you want to be able to get them out, but really just the way that you communicate them is something that's super huge, because if you want to lead, if you want to create an example, you have to make sure that people can relate to you and that they can understand what you're saying, especially from a kind of public speaker perspective. If I'm going to talk to you like I'm better than you or I do more things than you, I would definitely tune that person out if they were but it's definitely just the fact of you want to be relatable. You want to be somebody who, even though you may be doing amazing things, you also want to seem as though you're human too. Like everybody's human. I think that's one of the main things too, is learning everybody's human. Everybody makes their mistakes. Everybody says something wrong. Everybody, has something that's going on, obviously, and so you don't necessarily know what may happen or what may be going on, but just know that you have to be authentic, you have to be yourself in every single situation, but also cater it to where people want to where their communication is with whoever it is. So whether that be a employee, whether that be somebody you're speaking to, or a group that you're speaking to, That's something that's super important, is being yourself, being authentic, showing up as yourself, but also being able to cater and be relatable with your communication, because that's something that's super huge for people to really listen to what you're saying.
So we've talked about, the past, we've talked about the present day Gabby Bows, but how about the future? Where do you see Gabby Bows going in the next 5 years? And I say Gabby Bows sort of like as an all-encompassing thing. Like, where do you see yourself in the world of business going in 5 years?
Yes, so in 5 years, I will be graduated from undergrad. I don't know if I want to, I don't know, I'm like pretty much committed to a school, but it's also just like, I don't know, I'm pretty committed. But if this does go the way that it's supposed to go, I will be graduating from Vanderbilt. So that's something that I would say. And I really want to study business analytics. So I think with that, obviously GaBBY Bows will still be a big part. But especially as I go to college, I definitely want to kind of move away from the day to day and not necessarily have to focus so much on that, and be able to have either strategic partners or people who are overseeing that as well, and me kind of being on more of an oversight role with GaBBY Bows. But I think also in the future, two of my favorite things are math and business. So I really want to be able to study business analytics and kind of create different service opportunities with that. So we all would probably be in more service-based business. 5 years, I may be getting like an MBA in business analytics. So that's kind of my focus or my plan right now. But yes.
That makes a lot of sense. Are there any new like products or projects that you're currently working on that you can give us a little like teaser or spoiler of?
I think the book, that's the main thing. It's out for pre-order right now. The official release date is May 27th. That's 2 days before my graduation. So that week's gonna be really busy, but super excited about it. I think also with licensing with the product, we're also able to kind of license it out because we have the patents for it. So definitely be on the lookout for new GaBBY Bows with different character brands, as well as we will be in retail coming this fall as well. So you can stay on the lookout for that too. There's a lot happening. We've been working behind the scenes, but yes, just continue to keep up with us. There's a lot going on in these next few months.
That makes a lot of sense. I'm sure we will. And then lastly, what's your ultimate vision for your brand and like your entrepreneurship journey? Where does your, the final destination look like? Where's like your happy place going to be for this?
Oh, I don't know. The main thing, inspiring, just really the thing. I think also I would love to just be like a traveling speaker at some point, just to like go around, talk about whatever, business and not. But yeah, I think continuing to make sure that I'm continuing to set generational wealth for, my family and my community, whether it be in my hometown or wherever I may be. So I think continuing to build wealth, continuing to build inspiration, build new things that can help, improve other people's lives, and being able to not just benefit from it, but also be able to help new generations as well.